Welcome back to our Certified Entry-Level Python Programmer course, everyone. And we are all the way up to part 49, as you can see. And it's time for us to discuss string methods. That's right, it's our last video on strings, and it's our last official video in this section of content. So yeah, this is a big milestone. I just wanted you to understand, and we've already seen a couple of them, there's going to be a lot of very helpful string methods that you can use. Let's go ahead and see if we can find the list. So we're going to go to the site of python.org, and I'm going to say we're looking for string methods. And I think the built-in types documentation is what we are going to need. And if we look through here on the text sequence type of string over in the table of contents, there is our string methods. So look at these. There's so many of them. Capitalize. Wow. Copy of the string gets returned with its first character capitalized. And by the way, that's an important point I wanted to make there. Notice it's a copy. Yeah, strings are immutable. So if I say my underscore string equals hello, and then I realize, oh my gosh, I need to capitalize this. What we would be doing with this method of capitalize is just altering the presentation. In other words, print my underscore string dot capitalize. Oh my gosh, I picked the one that's going to be difficult for me to spell. Capitalize, is that right? Well, we're about to find out. And the arguments here we're going to use are absolutely nothing. And I misspelled it. Okay, no problem. Let's just do a little copy paste to help me with my spelling here. There we go. So I'm going to copy that. I know, this is ridiculous that I'm being this lame when it comes to figuring out how to spell. It's just I am. All right, let's paste that in and let's enter and look at that. The method works just like it's supposed to, but you guessed it, if I go ahead and just show us what string we are working with, you guessed it, it's the original string. So these methods are going to be very, very critical for us manipulating the output of the string, but the original string, as we said earlier, is immutable. That's right, it is immutable. What other type of methods exist? Well, there's case fold, return a case folded copy of the string. Okay, don't even know what that is. I'd have to read more about it. Center. Wow. Count, encode, ends with. I mean, there's a lot of them here. And some that we already have seen that are very, very useful, let me remind you, is strip. Where is strip? There's R strip. Somewhere in here is just strip. There it is. So we can use the strip function to strip off the beginning and end white space we might have in a string. So this is very, very useful when you are accepting input from a user. So let me say my underscore input equals, we are going to say input, give us a string, is what we want to say. And I need to remember my string syntax for the input prompt. There we go. And what we want to do is accept this input and then make sure that we trim off any space when we go to use the value. So watch this. I'm going to add space, 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 space. This is a string, space, 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 and hit enter. And if we print the my underscore input, we're going to see that the value does have all of those spaces. Yeah, it has the spaces that we can kind of see before the string and the spaces after the string we can't really see. You can if you highlight like that though. If when I click and drag to highlight, it's showing the entire string, which contains a bunch of white space. So once again, you can handle this by saying, I need to print my input, please, but I need you to strip all of the extra space that is around this string. So a lot of times we are manipulating the string input with these various methods, and we would have good reason to do that, of course. Like these extra white spaces are going to mess up us using the string. There was another one that we saw, which was upper. Yeah, go ahead and convert all of the letters to uppercase. I'm guessing there must be a lower, right? If there's an upper, there must be a lower. Let's look for that. These are in alphabetical order. There it is. There's the lower method. So my goodness, there are lots of methods that we can use with strings. And there's even some functions. We can't forget about functions in Python. And sure, there's some functions that you can work with, like for instance, the length function. So I could say, I want you to print now the length of my input string, and Python would have no problem with that. And I love that I chose that one, further proving that there's a bunch of white space in it, because this is a string is actually 28 characters long. So that really demonstrates that in our original string, we've got a whole bunch of white space. Well, all right, so go ahead and just take a look, be familiar with these various methods. You know, there's a lot of them, but you could read about each and every one of them in under like a half hour, right? Or maybe an hour. But yeah, it's always good to know what types of methods exist for our strings, just to see all the fancy stuff that we can do with strings and manipulating those strings. Well, my goodness, in this section of content, we have covered so much. We want to do a good, thorough review, and we'll start that in the next video. Hope to see you there.